Well, hi everyone. I'm Charm Ritlin with a review of two horror films that I just watched, Relic and The Wretched. Both of these come to us from IFC Midnight Films, so you're going to expect grittiness, some bloody images, some bloody visceral body horror stuff, and you're also going to get dark scenes. Literally in this sense, because they were trying to hide the fact that neither of these movies were made for very much money, and they were trying to hide the cheap effects. And I didn't like either of these. I'm not even going to mix words here. Like any multi-movie review that I do, there will be spoilers throughout. But yeah, I didn't like either of these. And it's unfortunate because the ideas could have been executed better because there were some good core ideas. And the acting wasn't even particularly awful in both of these movies. It wasn't very good, but it wasn't very awful. But the execution just kind of fell flat. And oh yeah, the movies were cheap and not scary and anything. So let's start with Relic. So, you seen the Babadook? Well, take the characters, the atmosphere, the ominous feel, the fact that, there's a sense of dread and everything. Take everything good about the Babadook, which I know was a divisive movie, throw it out the window and replace it with nothing, except standard, stock one-dimensional characters and bullshit ominous music and everything, and a plot that's this thin. And that's what you have. That's what you have with Relic. So you have Emily Mortimer playing Kay and Bella Heathcote playing Sam. They're a mother-daughter, combo, and they are looking for their grandmother. They are looking for the grandmother Edna, who lives out in the middle of the woodsy area in Australia. I didn't exactly catch what city. It's not really important because I didn't really give a shit. Location looked cool, but anyway, they're looking for her. They file a missing persons thing, and then suddenly Edna shows up. Now, all the while, there are bumps in the walls or these weird noises and stuff like that. They're trying to figure out what happened to Edna. What happened to Edna probably would have actually been the better title for this. I get why they call it Relic, and I'll get into why here in a little bit. But with this movie, Edna shows up. Oh, everything seems fine, except then suddenly she starts snapping and acting weird. Oh, maybe she's an old woman losing her mind, and she's got a black mark on her chest. And Kay wants to save her mother. Sam wants to save her grandmother. So they want to do this stuff. There's also this weird locked room, locked area, closet in the house that leads to this weird dimensional place where you get wrapped around, and it's this weird, area that just kind of loops around everything and fucks with your head and stuff like that. The Sam gets caught in later. And here's what the movie is. The movie is basically about, it's about an old woman losing her mind and basically becoming a shell of what she was, and her family wanting to stick by her. That's her family wanting to do what they can for her. At least that's what I gathered from it. But this movie was incredibly boring. Now, I can see why some people might like this movie. I didn't think the acting was all that bad. I didn't think it was that good, but I didn't think it was that bad. But it wasn't atmospheric. It wasn't haunting. And it wasn't, you don't need, jump scares. You don't need all this stuff. But you need, if you build some suspense, it's a very nice suspense, but you need to pay it off at some point. And they kind of just don't do that, because eventually, after doing all this stuff, being caught in that loop-de-loop, Mobius strip of a, housing section, eventually they're about to escape because Edna's all possessed and everything and doing all this stuff. And they go to leave, and Kay's like, wait, I can't leave her. Just suddenly fucking decides this after Edna had almost, or whatever Edna is, had, tried to pull her back into this wall. Nope, I can't leave my clearly possessed mother. I have to stay with her. And then Sam comes back because Edna ends up kind of getting her skin shed, and it's like she's a freaking weird gargoyle or goblin. It's like she's looking for the one ring. And this movie wasn't very good. And it wasn't that it didn't make sense, because it made total sense to me. It just wasn't very good. It was very boring. The unfortunate thing about it is it could have worked, but I just didn't buy into it. I can see why people liked it, but anybody that compares it to the Babadook, I like the Babadook. I did not like this. Relic gets an F because one of the biggest problems with a movie, one of the biggest indictments against a horror movie or anything psychologically, psychological horror, is that it's just boring. If you're boring, then chances are I'm going to give you a downgrade, and yet F. So, The Wretched, directed by the Pierce brothers. So we got a kid named Ben who meets a girl named Mallory, and while Ben's vacationing with his dad, and everything seems good. He's a bit awkward and everything. This girl Mallory clearly likes him. They go to a party, And then things kind of go a little bit awry or whatever, and he has to make it up to her and everything. It's just all happy, everything. It's about a wretched relationship. Oh, yeah. And then there's also this 1,000-year-old witch that was in a deer carcass that was hit in the road that takes over the whole town. That's pretty much the goddamn movie right there. This sort of reminded me of what they did with The Beach House, that Shudder exclusive, which, by the way, you can check out my review of that if you would like, if you don't mind spoilers. But Beach House had a neat little idea of, like, something taking over a seaside area. And it's kind of what this thing did, because this witch first possessed this woman and then was just finding a way to, like, kidnap children, to feast on them and everything, and making everybody forget they even had children, taking over their minds, including others. And the problem with this movie is it throws a couple twists in it where it's just doing it for the sake of twists. Like, first it possesses this one woman, then it possesses another, or it's just taking the shape of other people. It really can't decide what it wants to be. And the problem is this movie, while I think it tried to do a bit of tongue-in-cheek at first, like silly and everything, where, like, the kid, or this guy Ben, this teen Ben, is trying to figure out why the hell his neighbors are acting so weird, and, like, the kid goes missing. They did imply that a bunny got killed, which I love rabbits, so I was like, it's a good thing they didn't show that, because then I really would have had to have downgraded this movie. I recognize animal violence sometimes happens in horror movies, but I really don't like it. That makes me weird. I'm sorry, but I love animals. But this weird, like, symbol, it's like this weird circle or, like, triangle with a line through it and stuff like that, because it's supposed to be the wretched symbol, because it's this evil 1,000-year-old witch, and if you throw salt on her, she cringes and everything. That's how it works. And this movie just isn't very good. Much like Relic, the night scenes is, like, to the point where you're almost wanting to turn the contrast up on your TV. Like, I'm not saying my eyesight is goddamn perfect, but I have a really good TV. And I'm looking, and I'm like, okay, it's like, well, let me adjust the contrast. I adjusted the contrast. I'm like, nope, still can't see a fucking thing. They just filmed it so dark to hide the fact the special effects are really bad. I mean, it's not the special effects person's fault. They were just doing what they could with the budget. But it was not good. It was not good at all. And they keep throwing these twists like, oh, no, the witch is possessing this person. Now the witch is possessing this person. It made the main girl, Mallory, forget that she had a sister because the sister got kidnapped. And then suddenly they throw, in the last 15 minutes, they throw that Ben had a brother and that this witch had made him forget pretty much since the very beginning. And then he goes to rescue him and the sister from a tree, and Mallory's sister from a tree, the, weird tree that the witch came out of, that you sometimes see and sometimes don't. And the dad, who had been earlier stabbed, drives his truck into this tree after the kids get rescued and everything, and kills the witch, seemingly. But then we cut to a few days later. Everybody's going to be leaving, except Mallory, because she lives there. And, her and Ben kiss. Thank God we get a kiss. Everything's all happy and everything. And, oh, the witch is dead. No, she takes these kids out on this, boating trip. And then there's just this weird shot of her where clearly she is possessed. Why? Because flowers would always wilt around the witch. She gave a fake flower to Ben, and then he's realizing, oh no, the witch is still alive, somehow. Or maybe she was just cheap and wanted to use fake flowers. Didn't like this. The Wretched was pretty goddamn wretched. F. It gets a fucking F. Anyway, agree, disagree with what I said. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Retland. I'll see you soon.